This is KC Sports Tonight.
And hey, everybody, welcome to KC Sports Tonight. Scott Reiss with Neal Jones through the magic of, well, whatever we got going on here. Happy Thursday to you as we talk all things Kansas City sports, starting with the baseball team that, as I understand it, is pretty good. The Royals finished off a perfect homestand yesterday, 6-0, and we talked about this briefly on the show yesterday, that it's just they've had two of those this year, two undefeated homestands of 6 or more games in 1 year. It's happened once in the last 2 decades. It was the Yankees a couple of seasons ago. But now, Neal, they go on the road, and it is not rocket science to suggest that it's easier to win games at home than it is on the road. But as good as the Royals have been, 21-8, which is as good as anybody in baseball in their home stadium, they are a 500 team on the road. How much concern does it give you that a still a young team that is still sort of finding its way and learning how to compete with the big boys hasn't looked like the same ball club away from home as they have here in Kansas City?
Well, as you know, at this point in the season, which is still pretty early, the numbers can be skewed, and I think that they are skewed a little bit because of what happened to them in Baltimore. When did they blew 3 leads, right?
It was 2 leads in that series. They lost 2 out of 3.
And I mean, that looks a little different, but they're still 11-11.
Yep.
If you look in the West, I mean, look, the AL West is a kind of a weird division this year, but Seattle leads the division right now. They have a losing record on the road.
Yeah.
It doesn't worry. When the Royals played on AstroTurf in that massive ballpark, and they were built to hit the ball on the ground and steal and play Whitey Herzog ball, then you worried when they went to New York or some of these other bigger yards with grass, and the ball wouldn't roll, and suddenly they'd shoot a ball that would get past the shortstop and get in the gap in left field and get to the wall at Kauffman because the outfield was so big, and because it was an AstroTurf field, the ball would roll forever. It was a different situation when they would play on grass. That's not the case anymore. They're playing on grass at home. It is more difficult to hit home runs at Kauffman Stadium than most ballparks in all of baseball. But even that, they've had warm weather this year, so it's been a little bit more conducive to hitting the ball in the air farther at Kauffman Stadium. And I think this is a team that has played better in warmer conditions, and they certainly look that way. We had warm weather, Scott, and they looked great at home over this last homestand.
So here's some of the numbers. They're hitting .273 at home, which is the best in all of baseball. .220 on the road. That's 25th in baseball. So that's a pretty big disparity. And if you look under the hood, and I guess maybe this gets a little more concerning when you go grassroots and you look at some of the individual players. And MJ Melendez, Neal, he's the poster child. MJ's hitting .256 in Kansas City. He is hitting .068. He's 4 for 59 on the road. That's a stupid disparity between home and road. And, you know, he's not the only player whose numbers are a lot better here. And I guess that maybe for me is a little more the concern. Yeah, the pitching's a little better here, but it's not drastic. They're scoring an extra run and a half a game here. But if you look at some of the individual guys, they clearly struggle away from home. And at some point, that's got to rectify itself.
With the exception of the White Sox, who have they played on the road that were pushovers? They played at the Orioles. Orioles are good. I haven't looked at their schedule.
They played at Toronto, who's not as good as they were supposed to be. They're obviously a decent team, but they're 500-ish.
But they're 500-ish in the toughest division in baseball.
They played in Anaheim, and the Angels certainly aren't good. They went up to Seattle. The Mariners are good. They played there. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head where else they played already. But the Mets, they go to New York, or was that here?
I think they went into New York.
Yeah, I think they did. So, and the Mets aren't great. So they've played their road. It's not like they've played a better schedule, I think, at home than they have on the road. But it's not, neither way has been a murderer's row.
But it's not because they had, well, at home, I mean, my gosh, they're averaging 34,000 and it's really loud and it's intimidating. Well, that's not the case. Kauffman Stadium is a great stadium, a great home stadium, but a lot of those guys on this team had never played there before. I mean, this is a new roster. I want to wait a little bit longer. I know how many. What have they played?
They played 22 road games,
and they've had 29 at home.
Right.
Let's wait another 30 games or so, and start 40 games, and let's see where they are and see if it holds up. It could be as something as simple as mindset. I play better when I sleep at my home bed. I don't know,
And that's it for. I mean, that's normal. I mean, I think it's like that for a lot of folks, and maybe with a younger team, it's exaggerated. But we're going to have 7 more games to add to that sample size now as they go. And this is a tough trip. They go to Tampa for the next 3, and the Rays are always tough. Again, not world beaters, but they're always good. They play fundamentally sound baseball. It's Matt Quatrero against his old organization. Obviously, they know each other very well. You see the pitching matchups there on your screen. And then Monday through Thursday, they go to Minnesota. And this is a really interesting series because it's 4 games against the preseason pick to win the division. The Twins are looking up at the Royals 5 games. The Twins are 5 full games back of Kansas City, who is in turn a game and a half back of Cleveland. So all of a sudden, if you can even split those 4 games in Minnesota and go 2-2 and emerge from that still 5 games ahead of the Twins, and you've already played 4 of those games on the road, I think that's big going forward.
No, I agree 100%. I think it's an important series for the Royals. You don't want to go in there and get skunked. You don't want to do what they did in Baltimore where they coughed up leads late.
Right.
Bad losses. Those were bad losses, even though they were in all 3 games.
Yes.
When they came back, I went out there and interviewed guys in the clubhouse, and they were all, well, we lost. That's not good. We blew some leads. That's terrible. But we were in all the games. We didn't get beat 11-0. So it's important that they go up there and represent and play well against a team that's trying to claw their way back. You know, baseball players, baseball people, they know who the other teams are. They know who the players are. And I'd be curious to know in their hearts of hearts how many baseball players, how many people in the American League look at the Royals, hey, they're really good. We thought they were really good. I'm not surprised. Or how many of them are going, well, look, they're playing good baseball. They probably played their best. We'll see. Let's find out what happens as we get a little deeper in the season. I'd be curious what they think. I know the media and fans up there probably don't give the Royals a whole lot of credit.
No, I'm sure the national narrative is, we're 50 games into the season. But you know what? We're almost a third. I mean, a couple more games, we're going to be 1/3 of the way. So this now matters. This is a significant sample size. And I think that people are starting to warm up to the possibility that this team is a lot better than folks expected back in January, in February, and March leading up to this season. Speaking of baseball, I know you wanted to touch on sort of the differences in modern Major League Baseball versus back in the day, as we like to say, and particularly with regard to the extra wild card spots and how it now pertains to the Royals. And it's certainly good for Kansas City. You know, used to be there were no wild cards. There were 2 divisions, and that was it. A championship series, World Series, and you're done. Then they added the 1 wild card in each league, and that added a new element to it, and I think most people were all for it. Then it expanded again, and there were 5 playoff teams in each league. Now there's 6 playoff teams in each league, so you get 3 wild cards from the American League. If the season ended today, which is one of the dumber statements we all throw out in Major League Baseball, because obviously it's May and the season doesn't end today or tomorrow or next week or next month. But if you look at the wild card standings right now, the Royals are not only in the 2nd wild card spot out of 3, but they are comfortably in that 2nd wild card spot. So obviously you say, well, the odds of making the playoffs are pretty good. You would not have said that 10 years ago. There still would have been a much more of an uphill battle.
Well, the reason I wanted to discuss this with you and rather than with Jared Kohler, Jared grew up in Kansas City. He's only got one team he roots for, and that's the Kansas City Royals. I grew up in Oklahoma City, and I grew up just through an accident of things. When I was really little, I grew up rooting for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I didn't even know where Los Angeles was. I mean, I was that young, but I read. My mom sent me some books overseas when I was going to school. And one of them was the Jackie Robinson story, and one was on Sandy Koufax. So 2nd grader reading about that, I became a Dodger fan. And you grew up in L.A. area, so you're a Dodger fan.
Yep.
So I thought we were in a unique position to look at this. As a Dodger fan, I hate the fact that you play 162 games, by far the longest schedule in all of professional sports. 162 full games. And what do you decide? Well, the wild card that you beat by 15 or 18 games in your own division, you get 1 more home game than them. You get to play 2 at home, and then they play 3 or they play 2, and then you flip back and forth. It's not much of an advantage. All those games, and it doesn't get you very much. And so it angers me that the Dodgers could win 111 games last year. They had the best record in all of baseball, and they had very little to show for it. They had to play against the Diamondbacks. The Dodgers were beat up, and the Diamondbacks were healthy. And so what happened? It meant nothing. The Dodgers go away, ratings go down. However, as a Kansas City Royals fan, the other team I grew up rooting for because they were the nearest team to Oklahoma City, is great. The wild card's the greatest thing of all time because, as you pointed out, Royals look like they might be in the wild card race for the entire summer, and boy, that makes for great baseball.
And, you know, I guess it's sort of self-evident. If you're the 800-pound gorilla and you know you're going to the playoffs and you know you're winning your division year in and year out, you want fewer teams, right? Because there's fewer opponents, there's fewer potential stumbling blocks en route to the World Series and ultimately to a championship. And if, you know, you're a small market team that's not going to be in the playoffs every single season, you want as many possible slots as you can get. Look, I think that the extra wild cards, big picture, it's good for baseball. And even as a guy who wants the Dodgers to get to the World Series, it's good for baseball to have more fan bases engaged in August and September. And boy, these multiple wild card slots have done just that. And it's the same argument you can make in any sport, in the NHL or the NFL rather. And you know, the NBA, it seems like everybody makes the playoffs,
Yeah.
and now they've got 10 teams in each conference that have a shot. But you know what? Nobody's complaining because all these fan bases still get to root for their team with, you know, a month left in the season, 2 weeks left in the season, a week left in the season, and I just think it's collateral damage. I mean, yes, I get it from the Dodger point of view. If you're the Dodgers or you're the, you know, maybe the Yankees or you're the Phillies or the Braves or these teams where they've got these, you know, gazillion-dollar payrolls and they're going to be playoff teams almost every season without fail unless they really screw it up. But at the end of the day, you know, it's a system that I think works because more teams in contention equals more engaged fans, and that's better for the sport.
And they get more money by an extra couple of rounds of playoffs. But the fact of the matter is the World Series ratings, and look, I don't want to go by – ratings are difficult because there are so many more viewing options like Netflix and all sorts of stuff that people are not watching television, period.
Yeah,
with the exception of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And the World Cup and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you, Scott, the World Series, I go on radio all over the country, and I'm asking last year, because I'm like, so are you into the World Series? With the exception of Dallas, the answer was no. I don't do radio in Phoenix. I know that Arizona was thrilled.
Sure.
But it was like the ratings were minuscule. It's a non-event. And you and I recall when the World Series, and you don't have to be that old, when the Cardinals played the Royals, it was 2 towns in Missouri playing each other, still had massive numbers.
Yeah.
It was the biggest thing on. The NFL did not want to go up against the World Series. Not anymore.
The NFL's fine with it.
The World Series has become a lesser event. And in my opinion, well, I can say it is not as big as the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament in terms of impact. It just isn't, which is so different than when you had 2 teams that won their divisions and they play in the 1 round of playoffs and that got them in the World Series. And again, you did not have interleague baseball, so there was that, hey, I wonder if the National League can compete with the American League this year. Baseball has done so much to water down things and take away that special thing that used to be the World Series, that the World Series is no longer must-see viewing unless your team is in it, I'm afraid.
It has become much more market-dependent than it used to be. You know, and your example of the Cardinals and Royals is Exhibit A. Back in the day, it didn't matter. You know, whichever 2 teams, everybody was watching it. That's not the case anymore. And neither the Rangers nor the Diamondbacks have massive national followings, and there you get the ratings that we had last year. If this year we get Dodgers, Yankees, or Cubs, Red Sox,
absolutely,
or Braves, Yankees, people, you know, then it's going to be a different story. But I mean, there's no debating that baseball ratings have fallen off a cliff over the last 20, 25 years. And I don't know how much of that is watered down, and frankly, I don't know how much of that is the league's fault. I think it is, it's a function of a lot of things. It's millennials, it's short attention spans, it's people, they think baseball's boring, not enough action. You love it, I love it, and it saddens me the fact that baseball has fallen to not only way behind the NFL in the national pecking order, but you could say behind the NBA too. That makes me very sad as a diehard baseball guy. It's the way of the world, and I don't know how we change it.
Well, both baseball and the NBA have become regional. They're just regional teams. The Oklahoma City Thunder are a huge story in Oklahoma City. They really are. They can knock Oklahoma or Oklahoma State football off the front page. It just is, because it's new to Oklahoma City. I think that the same thing can be said for Dallas. They love the Mavericks down there, but it's regional. It's not statewide. You leave the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the people in the hinterlands are not living and dying on the Mavericks. Right. They live and die with college football and the Dallas Cowboys. That's it. That's just where it goes. But I do think that baseball has addressed the biggest problem, and that was the length of the games. The games are so much more watchable. They're a joy. Yes. I mean, that was my big complaint, is you have a 4-hour game and you're like, okay, well, we're in the 8th inning and we played 3 hours and 45 minutes and not that much has happened. And so they fixed that. That's a good start. Mm-hmm. But I think also when you and I were growing up, the game of the week was a big deal. Yeah. You had a Monday night game that they added on ABC. NBC had the game of the week, and so you had 2 games a week that were on television in most markets. And then I remember the Royals had about a 15 or 20 game schedule, and then it was 30 games. And I remember when they went over 50 games, I was like, holy Toledo, they're carrying a lot of games. Well, now every game is on television. Doesn't mean you can get it because of the way it's splintered and because of the cable problems and the problems with the different carriers. For instance, I don't get the Royals on YouTube TV. I used to get them on cable, but the cable company that was in my neighborhood pulled out. And so we went to YouTube TV. I can't see the Royals. So when I'm at work, I always watch them, because it's fun, and it's fun to hear Ryan Lefevre's voice and those guys. I miss them. They were part of the soundtrack of my summers, and it's strange not to have that. Yeah. And we've already got a couple of other apps, but I've talked to my wife. She went to the Royals game on Sunday and had a great time. And I said, honey, we ought to probably get the app. So the Bally's app, so that we can watch some of these games. I know you are mad that we have this app and this app and this app, but I think we probably ought to get this, because they're going to be a factor this summer, and we're going to want to sit down and drink an iced tea and watch the games.
You absolutely will, and I predict that within the next month you will have that app and you'll be watching those games at home. And just one more thought on baseball. It's a shame that more fans aren't noticing the absurd level of young talent that is in Major League Baseball today. And I know it's easy for us to think of, all the golden age, whether you grew up in the 60s, with Mays and Aaron and Mickey Mantle, or the 70s with Rod Carew and Joe Morgan and Steve Carlton, or, the 80s and Ricky Henderson. No matter the era, we always think, oh, these were the glory days. These were the glory days. What these guys do now is off the charts incredible. And we've got, Exhibit A right here in our backyard is Bobby Witt Jr. I wish more people could watch the Royals on a regular basis and watch this guy play baseball. But the young talent, the speed with which these guys reach this incredible level, it used to be, well, you get called up and it'd take you a couple of years, and you get, not anymore. Have you seen Paul Skeens, the number 1 pick from last year, the top draft choice of the Pirates?
I have not read about him, though.
He's made 3 starts right now. This guy's unbelievable. I mean, every other pitch is 100. He spots it. He has command. He looks like he's a 6-year veteran out there, just absolutely obliterating good major league hitters, making them look stupid. This guy's had 3 major league starts. He was in college last year, and he's every bit the part. Like, he lives up to the hype, and he's just one example. And that's why, to me, it's such a shame, is the talent is so good, and I don't think enough people nationally are appreciating that.
2 words: David Clyde.
David Clyde?
You remember that? You know that name? He was a Texas Ranger. When the Rangers went to town, they got the number 1 overall draft pick, who was a Texan.
Okay.
They brought him up. He was lights out for 2 or 3 starts.
Yeah.
And he was like 19 years old or 18 years old. he went straight from high school baseball and ended up pitching that summer at that beautiful ballpark, Arlington.
I remember Pete and Caviglia going right from like the low minors to the Rangers back in the 80s.
Yeah, I covered Pete. When he was at Oklahoma State. But David Clyde's, this is what this guy reminds me of.
Yeah.
This guy's got great stuff. David Clyde had a fastball, and I have no idea why it didn't work out.
Yeah.
It's bizarre, because he was a big, strong, had a great arm, great body and everything, strong guy, and it didn't work out. So I always wonder how guys are going to do over long term. But, Scott, you know baseball. Baseball, so much, they have spent so much of their time, ownership and the Players Association, battling each other over CBAs, that they have run down the product. I don't know where you were in 1994 when there was the strike. I was here. And guess what? The Royals look like they might be they look like a team that could have made a run to the playoffs. Hal McRae was their manager. Hal McRae always just was brokenhearted over the strike because they were good. And he loved the guys he had.
Not as brokenhearted as the Montreal Expos.
Oh, yeah, no question. But the point is that you have owners, and what have they talked about here? What's been the biggest issue about baseball this year? It hasn't been about the team. It's 90% of the time, if you talk about the Royals, where are they going to end up?
Right.
What's going on with the owner? At the holidays, my daughter graduated from college two weekends ago, and so we had everybody over for cake and ice cream and coffee and beer and all that stuff at our house. And my in-laws, who are all from Kansas City, are all saying the same thing. What's going on with the Royals? Why'd they mess this up? Are they crazy? They weren't talking about the team. For one thing, they probably can't see the games. And two, they haven't caught up with it. So hopefully we are getting through this thing, and the ownership and the players will understand, sell the players. Don't run the players down. Don't complain about the players. Sell them like NFL sells their quarterbacks.
Let's move on to the NFL, segue. And just briefly touch on kind of the most important bullet point from yesterday's Roger Goodell press conference. This is not official, and I don't know how quickly it's going to become official, but at some point within the next couple of years, the NFL is going to go to an 18-game schedule. I think that the writing was on the wall when they went to 17, which, an odd
makes
number
no
of games
sense.
makes
Yeah.
no sense, and the players don't like. Nobody likes 17 for a variety of reasons. And I think 18 works. It makes sense. I think you have to put in a second bye week. You have to do what you can to alleviate the stupidity of these 4-day turnarounds that we're going to see again with the Chiefs when they're playing on Christmas Day. A Saturday game and a Wednesday game. You got to do away with that. And I think adding the extra bye week will allow that to happen. But I think we're going to get there, and I think it'll be good for the fans because nobody needs 3 preseason games. That's for sure.
Well, but they're going to still play 2, right?
I think
That's 20 games.
I think so, but it's 20 now.
And you have to pay for it. If you're a season ticket holder, you don't get to, I'm going to opt out of the preseason. Right. No, if you're going to be a season ticket holder, you have to pay full price. Right. That's full parking and full price at the tickets.
Right. Well, it's one fewer of those you got to pay for now. You get a real game instead.
Well, no, you're right about that. And we have to make a decision. And you and I probably ought to sit down and think about this. Are we going to cover the Big 12 basketball tournament or the Chiefs football playoff? Because you can't play
first week of March.
I mean, I don't want to see them playing I went out there the last 2 years I've had to cover preseason games. You conveniently were out of town during this, but I had to go out there and cover the preseason games in early September or late August.
Yeah.
And it's so hot,
Yeah.
and people are melting, and they're like, well, I paid full price for this. So we came out, and, of course, the starters didn't play, and it is just murderous. I don't want to see regular season football in August. It's bad enough that college does it. Players hate it. It's not healthy for them, particularly if they have to play on AstroTurf with those temperatures. And here's something else. Sooner or later, television fatigue is going to come in, where you're like, oh, well, I missed this game, but who cares? They got 17 more. They got 8. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. In this age of gambling and fantasy football, I don't think television fatigue is going to be a thing.
Well, I do think that we have a skewed view of it because look at the town we're in.
But
if you're
living around here,
if you're living in a city where the team's not very good, like if you're a Bears fan, okay, well, gosh, that's great. An extra Bears game, that's great. I don't know. At some point, when is too much going to, or how much, it's like having too much ice cream. I love ice cream, but at some point you can't eat everything.
See, I would disagree with you there too. There's no such thing as too much ice cream ever under any circumstance.
Oh, I bet you say that to your boys, right? You let them have as much as they want.
Well, maybe. It's admittedly bad parenting, but it's a way of life. It's a philosophy. All right, I do want to get to the Heisman stuff because we put it on the board, and it's interesting. You know, we're still a couple of months away from college football, but you look at the rankings that. Hang on one second. Let me just fix this and get the. No, that's not what we want. I think that's the one we want. You look at our three teams: K-State, Kansas, Mizzou, and in all of the unofficial, I'll say, polls that are out, the rankings that ESPN and Fox Sports and all the networks, you know, they have their early top 25s. They're all ranked almost unanimously. Mizzou is generally right around number 8, 9, 10 in the preseason, which is fascinating to me given all the talent they lost. I mean, Cody Schrader on the offensive side, but I mean, you know, they lost Darius Robinson and Chris Abrams-Drain and Tyron Hopper and Ennis Rakestraw and all that just elite defensive talent. So to me, you know, there's still some hurdles to climb in terms of replacing those guys. And K-State and Kansas are both consistently showing up in that sort of between 15 and 22 in the rankings. So we're likely going to have 3 top 25 teams in the preseason, which is a ton of fun, you know, kind of like we had a couple of years ago during the meat of the season. So it's great for us. It's great for local fans. But the Heisman odds sort of ducktail off of that. And bottom of your screen, you can see there that all 3 local quarterbacks are on the board in Vegas. And honestly, Neil, I was a little bit surprised that Avery Johnson, who has 3 or 4 games of collegiate experience under his belt and is taking over for Will Howard, was the highest on the board of the 3, given the experience of Brady Cook and Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make of him. His breakout game against Texas Tech, he ran for 4 touchdowns?
5. He had 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't see him execute the passing game. We
Right.
haven't seen people stack the line of scrimmage and say, fine, we're going to stack the line of scrimmage. Beat us with your arm. He might be able to do that. I don't know enough about him to know.
Right.
But the fact of the matter is, I don't know how anybody else would know.
That's kind of my point,
If
right?
they can do it. And we don't know the receiving core at K-State. They've got some turnover there. I know they'll coach him up really well, and I know that he is an unbelievably fast guy who can make you miss. So there is something. Certainly his ability to run with the football is going to be something that will help them. But here's a great question for you. Who's going to have the better quarterback? Kansas State or Ohio State?
Well, Will Howard is higher on the board. I didn't put him on number, and I can't remember. I'd have to look it up.
But I ask you, who's gonna have the better quarterback?
I mean, I would say Ohio State.
I mean, one guy's got a ton of experience,
Yeah, I mean,
and he's shown he can do it. But then this other guy is he might be the next coming of Sam Bradford.
He might be. I mean, who knows? Obviously Johnson is the unknown. We pretty much know what Will Howard is at this point, and that is a very good college quarterback. I don't think Will Howard's going to be a great professional quarterback, but I do think that he's a very good college QB. And at Ohio State, look, they were a QB. We saw the bowl game, right? I mean, what was the missing ingredient for Ohio State? They had nobody who could play quarterback. Kind of a big deal.
And they got guys everywhere else. I think Ohio State's going to be good, so I think it's going to be fun for Will Howard. I'll root for him, and I'm going to root for K-State, obviously. Brady Cook I think he is underrated. He has done really well. Let me tell you something. One of the things that impressed me the most about Mizzou wasn't necessarily all their wins. It was what they did in a loss at Georgia. They were in that game in the fourth quarter at Georgia.
Yes.
Georgia's good. Georgia might not have been as good as people thought they were, because I don't think they were as good as they had been, but they got great linemen. They can win the line of scrimmage, and Missouri went toe-to-toe with them.
Yes,
they ran the football. They completed some big passes. I thought Brady Cook showed what he could do. They had a turnover late that was too bad, but that was the difference in the football game. That is what impressed me, and, of course, they beat Ohio State, but Ohio State playing without their quarterback, playing with a bunch of people that chose to opt out, including their top receiver and one of the top receivers in the country.
Right.
So I really think that Missouri is going to be something very, very special this year. I don't think there's any question about it. They did a great job in the transfer portal. They got one of the top offensive linemen in the country who's coming in to be at one offensive tackle position. The other offensive tackle is from the same high school. They're both from Lee Summit North. They are going to anchor that line. I really do think, Scott, I love their offensive coordinator over there in Columbia. I think he made a big difference with the offense. I think that was one of the reasons this team showed great improvement. Scott, I think Missouri is capable of I expect them to be playing in their final regular season game to have an opportunity to cement their spot in the playoffs.
We got Neal all fired up about college football here in mid-May. I wish we could continue this. The record's going to stop here in about 90 seconds, so no real time for the world according to Neal, but I guess we sort of had it.
So what do we have up on the next show? Is it weather?
Which next show?
On this podcast. What's the next thing on the podcast?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I think it's weather. Isn't it the weather show?
Well, the weather show is on at 6:30 on television.
Oh, okay.
That's on TV. So, but there will be weather on the app later tonight. I know they always do an evening session. I think the time varies, but they'll be back. You're never going to go too far without hearing weather on KCTV5 or any of the KCTV5 streaming.
But nobody argues about weather. They argue about sports. You know what I mean? Politics and sports.
It's not going to rain. What are you, stupid? Wouldn't you? You'd pay for that, wouldn't you? Just once.
We had to do a weather segment. Weather our way. It's hot. It's going to be hot tomorrow, and it's going to be hot in 2 days. That's weather. Back to you, Scott.
All right, we'll be back again tomorrow. Same streaming platforms, and hey, we'll look ahead to the Royals opener in